In this video, myself and Axiom Fitness Academy Master Trainer Kevin Mullins are live with our private Facebook group, and we're breaking down some questions surrounding how to go about programming and training for new clients, especially as you're getting started. Most trainers learn so much through their certification, or they at least learn theoretical information. And then there's usually a pretty big gap with, like, Joe, how does that look in the session? Like, how do I actually integrate in flexibility training and balance training and mobility? How much of it should I do while they're with me trying to get results and weight loss? And so Kevin and I are just in this video breaking down a very simple approach and mindset on how to approach this, because this is definitely a long-term area of learning. So I hope this video serves you, and I'll see you guys on the other side. So my one answer for you, Jasmine, this is my simplest approach, is start simple, right? Because in your mind, you're like, well, I need to be doing flexibility, and I got to be doing balance and cardio and strength training, and like, it's a lot. But keep in mind, you might only need one balance move, right? You don't need to do a whole balance training circuit. So as you look at these different pieces, just know you don't have to change the world in one session, because really you need months and years with this person to make the impact. So it's just little doses over time, and then simple approach. Right? This is what we're actually even getting into this weekend, teaching inside of our in-person course as well, is the movement progressions. The way we look at, okay, we know everyone needs to squat, right? But like, which squat do I start with? Well, my answer would be start with the simplest one. And if you want to know what simplest is, which one would be the easiest for you to coach and know that someone's going to be able to pick up easily? And then what would be the next complex one and the next complex one, right? So that's one way to look at it. So there's a lot there to unpack, but that's my place where I would start. Kevin, what do you got?
Well, I think you were like dancing around. I thought you were going to steal my thunder on it, but I define it very simply. When I'm working with a client, and I want everyone to write this down, I promise this is a game changer. You have to ask yourself, what is the hardest exercise that my client does well? Now, when you first meet someone, you don't necessarily know what they do well. So you do want to have some default things, the classic goblet squat or a squat to a box, some sort of horizontal or TRX suspension trainer row for rowing, some sort of push-up variation. Like, we want to have these assessment movements. But once you start training someone and you're trying to build out an actual program, whether it's balance, whether it's squatting, whether it's hinging, whether it's biceps curls, what is the hardest variation of this exercise that my client does well? And that's a caveat that has to stick, because I'm here to tell you, as the guy who in my 20s, and I know you're with me on this, Joe, I'm like, yeah, we're going to do the barbell back squat. And they're just like, under it. And I couldn't coach it better. I wasn't good enough yet. It was a mismatch, and they never got better. They may have had some aches and pains they shouldn't have had, versus coaching a living you-know-what out of a goblet squat or a double rack squat or some other variation and building them up. So the other thing I'll say is this, is the OPT model is important, and it's a major part of NASA. But don't think that just because your client's in phase one, that everything you have to do is flexibility, stability based. You could throw them down on a machine towards the end of the workout and throw some hell at them, right? You have to just be smart. You have to watch the client move and say to yourself, I don't think I can barbell back squat this person, but after I do some balance work, after I do some flexibility, and I coach up their body weight squat, I think I'm going to finish up the session on the leg press, and I'm going to load it up a little bit so they actually get a stimulus. Because sometimes in things like the OPT model, and other brands have their own models, we get so caught up being functionally perfect that we're not actually giving the client what they're asking us for, which is make me fit, make me look better naked, make me feel stronger, help me look and feel better, right? Well, great, you help their big toe move 4 more degrees and you increase their balance, but they still hate the way they look in the mirror. So I just say that one last time is, please follow the OPT model. It is scientifically backed. It is an amazing way of progressing people, and it's scientifically accurate. But don't think that just because you're in a phase, that's all you can do. Like, oh my God, if I were to do any hypertrophy work in phase one, I broke the world. No, do it. Just do it smart.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that's the thing too. If you're keeping your exercises simple, meaning that choosing the exercise, like Kevin said, that people can work appropriately hard for themselves on, right? No matter whether you're doing muscular endurance reps or you're doing more like muscular development, whatever, the movement they move best with, And you, in my opinion too, even if you really want to apply, because I think the stabilization, like that's the biggest piece of the OPT model that's new for a lot of you guys. It's like, well, what does that mean? It doesn't have to all be balance work. And you think about it, truthfully, even with someone with really poor balance, there's only so far you're going to get going right to single leg stuff right away anyways. You will improve their balance by getting them functionally stronger, by getting them moving better, as a foundational piece. And then obviously you have to play with basic support over time, but literally just take all your major movements, right? Every person that you work with should be doing some version of a squat pattern, an upper body pushing pattern, whether it's horizontal or vertical-ish, pulling as well, right? And then hinging, right? Think bridges, think RDLs, and then maybe some sort of lunge, right? Sometimes that can be limited based on knees and also the balance, but it could be supported, right? It's just a pattern that everyone should do. If you're doing that and you slow everything down, right? Make them go slow, focus on range of motion. Even without load, most new exercisers, they're going to get the stimulus because they weren't doing any of it before,
Yeah. Don't be surprised when you're like, I only did 2 sets of squats with them, and then the next day they're like wheelchairing around the world.
Yeah. I mean, and this is one reason why even for me, I don't take on a lot of new people these days, but it is a lot of fun when I get to now. And for example, just last week I had a new woman start who was a referral from a physical therapist, and I have somebody who's traveling for a while, so I had a little spot open up, and so I brought her in. And she's someone who physically, like, looks pretty good. Like, she's in her mid-50s, like, looks in shape, what we would consider. Has worked out a lot in the past, but hasn't been recently. And so I start very light, right? Very light, even in the first session, just moving. And even just, like, getting someone doing, like, a couple of lunges, a couple of squats, a couple of others. She comes in 2 days later, and she's like, Joe, I can't believe how sore I am. And I'm like, I know, I'm so sorry. I told you, because we just slowed everything down. Most people aren't used to moving like that. And all of a sudden, like, oh shit, things are communicating, muscles are working. And so that's my simple approach too, is like, start with simple basic moves, slow them all down so you have time to coach them. And then, there's no exact magic equation on when you progress, but just progress slowly and don't progress more than one variable at a time, right? Be patient with that, because I think that'll help as well. If you're still with me here at the end, then I'm gonna assume that you got some value out of this video. So don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave us any comments, as Kevin and I are very active here, wanting to make sure we're building a community of coaches and trainers in the online space around the world who wanna do better, who wanna make training a lifelong career, make great money doing it. And so we'll continue to put out great content on that topic.